Hi everyone, Siren here with another inflatable toy unboxing video. I wasn't expecting to be doing one quite so soon, but this guy showed up at work today and I couldn't be any happier. It's the PuffyPaws Speckles Dinosaur. It's a little bit like the Sea Dragon, but a little bit more petite, a little bit more cute, and I think I'm going to enjoy it. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this box and get things opened. As usual, a lot of care has been taken to make sure that you can't accidentally cut into the box. That's always a good thing. We've got these extra bits of cardboard, and the cardboard shell itself is made of this really thick double layered stuff, so yeah, no prospect of accidental damage there, thankfully. I'm perhaps a little bit brazen in the way I open these things, but I'm kind of used to it. So here's the main event, so to speak. And already you can see some of the orange and yellow vinyl poking through. We can see we've got our instructions and our repair patch here. Comes standard with all Jets toys. If we get our way into this bag here. Good idea to hold on to these things sometimes. It can be quite good if you ever need to repackage things or put them away in storage. If you don't want them getting dusty or moist or anything like that, it's always a good idea. I'll just keep this one aside because I have loads of these by this stage. Get through this layer of foam. Being a little bit more careful not to damage anything. And we are in. Now, as usual, these big custom inflatables come packaged with tissue paper to protect the surfaces, and so as we unfold this thing, we're going to gently remove that and put it aside, and we should have a nice pristine toy. So you can see already over here we've got our number 3 valve. The vinyl is matte, but you can see that some of the ink, it has a more glossy finish, like these spots here, these blue ones. So that's interesting, slightly different from the last toy we looked at, the Belgian Draft Horse, which was kind of a uncoloured matte vinyl with some slightly shinier markings on it. See the beginnings of his cute face. Now these bits of tissue paper are very useful. It's a good idea when you're storing toys, particularly if you're storing them in a box with each other, to just put a layer of tissue paper in between. Paint can migrate sometimes, even if it's fully cured, and that's something you learn the hard way. I once had an old cheap suitcase that I kept a couple of toys in for a while, and much to my dismay I discovered that the lining of the suitcase actually turned vinyl black and left these horrible streaky marks on it, so yeah, don't do that. So just continuing to open everything up, you can see we've got separate chambers for the fins with the number 3 valves. That's good. Means they'll be quick to inflate and deflate, but they help to give it a bit more strength where it matters. And that's separate chambers for both the front and back fins. I'll take some time to comment on the vinyl. Just first impressions, it does seem to be, I don't know whether it's thinner than the usual PuffyPaws vinyl, but it's definitely very soft, and that seems to be a trend that's followed through from the Draft Horse, so that's good. So there you see Speckles in his fully deflated glory. I'm going to grab my trusty Intex quick fill pump, and we should be able to get this guy inflated in next to no time. Now, it doesn't really matter which order you do this in. My preference is to inflate the smaller chambers first, but it really makes no difference. Now, I'm probably going to draw a lot of comparisons to the Sea Dragon, and I can tell you already that the fins seem to be larger and flatter than that of the Sea Dragon, and I think that should make this toy a little bit more stable in water. Not to say that the Sea Dragon wasn't, but I think the smaller size of this toy is going to make it more prone to tipping, and this should counteract that quite nicely. Now, I was privileged enough to be able to see the prototype of this toy during my last visit to America, and I believe that it's appeared at several furry conventions. So that's the fins done. Now, speaking of the pre-orders, this toy went up for pre-order in the middle of 2018, if you're watching this at a later date, and the original retail price was $475 US. Now, if you've ordered one of these toys and haven't received it yet or haven't paid shipping, don't worry. As with the Belgian draft horses, the Australasian customers managed to get theirs shipped directly from China, and that's simply for economical reasons. For you guys in the US and Europe, it's a lot cheaper for them to come by boat and then be distributed locally. Now I'm going to turn him around because his valve happens to be on the other side. So we'll have him sit like this. I'm just going to pause momentarily to talk a little bit about electric pumps. Now, they are prone to overheating, particularly with these larger volume toys. I mean, obviously they're not designed for something quite this big, they're designed for sort of your average size pool toys. To make sure your pump doesn't overheat, which could be rather nasty, make sure first of all that the adapter is pushed through the safety valve so that you're getting the best possible transfer of air from the pump to the toy. And secondly, try not to run it for too long. So if you've been using the pump to do, say, the smaller chambers, let it sit for a while and it should be good to go. So here he is in his full glory. As you can see, I'm having a little bit of trouble fitting him in the camera frame. No doubt I'd have the same with the Sea Dragon if I was to inflate him in this room. And now let's have a close-up look at some of the features of the toy. So I'm just holding the camera by hand, so apologies for any shakes. Now, if I get a little bit closer, you'll be able to see the difference in contrast between the matte vinyl, which is what makes up most of the toy, and the shiny sections, where they're painted in blue. Now the spikes are rather interesting. You can see that they're actually inverted pinch seams. So where you'd ordinarily have a sharp ridge, that's actually on the inside of these spikes. If you look closely, you'll see that that material on the spikes is not as shiny as the painted surface here, simply because the material's turned inside out. But I think with ergonomics in mind, it's probably good that it's been done this way. Now, if you remember the Sea Dragon, it had separate chambers for the head and tail fin. They've done away with that here, and they've just got these spikes, which means that the whole thing is 5 chambers, all with number 3 valves. Which means that you can get the toy inflated and deflated pretty quickly. The first time I met this toy, a friend of mine tried to get on him, didn't judge things quite right, and ended up almost knocking a television over, so I'm going to be very careful not to do the same thing. But let's do a test ride. It's a little bit tricky to actually get on top of him because he sits quite high up. This could make things tricky in the pool, but I guess we'll see soon. Perhaps not the most graceful mounting, but I'm on. It's quite comfortable and very bouncy. He certainly is big. I can lean back a fair amount without losing balance, which is good. You can't really lean forward, at least not when you're sitting like this. I guess you can kind of stand up if you want to come forward. I certainly don't feel like I'm going to fall off, which is really good. And getting off is pretty easy too. I'm sure you're curious to see how Speckles behaves in the pool. Thankfully it's summertime here in Australia and my pool is ready and raring to go, so let's have a look at that now. So after unboxing, inflating and test riding the Speckles Dino, I thought I'd give you a bit of my feedback. So it's a fantastic toy, it's enormous, very pretty, very cute, a little bit difficult to ride in the water, but as cool as he is, I don't think he's going to see a lot of action in the water. It's more likely to be a display or an indoor type toy. The vinyl in particular is really, really nice. You've probably seen a few shots of just how soft that was. That's pretty fantastic, and he does look fantastic in the water. I'm Siren, and thanks for watching.